And I have sold $150 tumblers, and I mean, the person was dead set on it. And it just doesn't make sense to me to do otherwise.
What's a $150 tumbler have on it? Andy from AAC Enterprise, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I'm going to have you do an intro on yourself and your business. But first, I just wanted to kind of set the stage saying, I thought you would be an excellent first real guest for the podcast outside of interviewing myself. Because if you were to look up or ask somebody what a classic laser engraving business looks like, the types of products that you do, the story of, working full time and then making a transition to this as your business, working with your family, kind of tying all that together. What you're doing there looks like it fits the bill like to a T.
Yeah.
So, I'm excited to talk to you, hear about your story, and maybe give the listeners, anybody who might be in the same boat, thinking about starting their own laser engraving business where they live, some of the pluses and minuses, pitfalls, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself and what you do.
All right. My name's Andy Davis. Started this business about 2 years ago now, and AAC Enterprise. AAC is my children's first letter of their name, so Addison, Avery, and Colt. And I've been doing cerakote for quite a while, and I've been playing around with laser work for a little while, but found myself in a place that was going to try to turn it into a business. And I gave myself 2 years to see how it's going to go and see if we can make it work. And so far it's doing really good. It's been interesting to find the niche of where I fit in and what I can do compared to everybody else. And I do a lot of different things. And that's also been trying to figure out what to spend my time on. That's been a struggle at times, is knowing what to come out here and do and what's going to get the most bang for the buck. I'm close to 50 years old. The whole social media thing is a little new to me, and trying to understand that has been a big struggle for myself. I have teamed up with some good people to help, but it's a slow process, and I'm trying to learn it, and I want to have more control over it. But we offer cerakote, which is, most people think of cerakote as firearms painting, which it is. But it's used in a lot of other industries. It's used in the automotive industry. I do a lot of fixtures for like showers and things in your house that you need a custom color on. Cerakote is a very thin based paint, so you can take a nut and a bolt and paint it and still screw it together. So the people that invented cerakote also do powder coating. So it's along those lines, but it's just a very thin paint for application, and it's a very corrosion resistant. I do quite a bit of car parts, headers, and different things that, and it does keep the heat in, so it helps from getting your engine bay completely hot and everything. So we do that. We do firearm cells. We do a lot of oddball laser work, but then I do a lot of medical stuff, and it's not the typical Z-Mark medical stuff. It's I've kind of teamed up with a company that makes replacement ankle parts, and which I don't know a lot about it, but I know the boxes that all their components come in, they put it together, they ship it to the doctor for the procedure to be done. But those aluminum boxes have to be engraved with very precise numbers on them to keep track of it. And the way I understand it is there's a lot of parts in there. They don't use them all. And then once they're done with the procedure, that box gets sent back to the manufacturer, and then the doctor gets charged for what was used. So every component in there, I engrave with special numbers on it, the box itself. So that's something I do quite often for them. And it's come and go. Sometimes there's a lot of them. Sometimes it's not.
Interesting.
And then I do a lot of just people calling saying they need something engraved. I stock a lot of product to get engraved, but I do lots of tumblers like everybody else, and keychains, the normal deal. But Yeah. I mean, I usually won't unless it's somebody we know. I don't do one or two. I mean, if somebody wants to order 50 plus or something, then we'll do that. But with the Stanleys and Yetis so hard to get unless you have an account, that makes it.
Right. And so, reading your website, you started this in February of 2023. That's not very long ago. So were you doing the cerakote stuff before that, or were you using lasers before that? And then you just officially like, hey, this is the day. I'm officially calling it this day is AAC Enterprise starting day, or how did that work out?
So the kind of way it starts, I've been doing Cerakote for roughly 4 years for personal stuff. And not much outside of that. I was really intrigued with the lasers and what they can do. And I find myself in need of making little fixtures and stuff for just personal products or projects. So I was looking at lasers. Then I found myself out of my job that I had for over 30 years and decided it was time to figure out what to do next. So I did some searching and just said, I'm going to give this a shot. I think there's some money to be made here. It's interesting. It's something I like doing. I come from an AutoCAD background, so light burn and stuff was not hard at all. Now Adobe's been a different deal, but light burns have been pretty straightforward. But we decided we were going to do the business. To spray Cerakote on firearms, it's considered a manufacturing process. So I had to have my FFL, and you have to have an '07 FFL, which is a manufacturing's license. And so I started applying for all of that to get the FFL in place and get everything working. And we're looking for storefronts here in town. And we live in a relatively small town. I think it's about 20,000 people. It's about 20 miles outside of Kansas City. So we're right on the outskirts of a big city. And one of my biggest issues was in my past job, which I'm sure we'll get into, was I just worked a lot of hours and I missed a lot of my kids' things going on. And doing this, I wanted to be close and I wanted to have a storefront here in town. That way I could run out and pick them up if I needed to or whatever. And I actually had one lease signed. We had a date, move-in date. Everything was good. And they backed out and I'm not really sure why. So we quickly found another one, had a signed lease. It was a done deal. I mean, we were buying stuff to move in there. We were ready to go. And they called me one day and said, since you're FFL, our insurance will not cover us. So that's been an ongoing theme with this business. So I could have pressed their hand a little bit since we had a signed lease, but it wouldn't have been worth all the trouble. So, and in the background this whole time, I had this AP laser that was on order, and they were going to call about a week before it was ready to ship, and they needed an address where to ship it. And I kept telling my wife, I was like, if we don't have a store picked out, I said, we're shipping it to the house and we'll figure it out. And it was like 2 days later, we got the phone call. And I was like, well, I guess we're doing it here. So we've got a pretty big 3-car garage, and came home, and that weekend we put up a 32 by 16 shop in the backyard, and everything that was in the garage got moved out there. And it quickly turned into this in about 2 weeks. I had the mini split air conditioners installed. I got the wall built up in the 3rd-car garage, so it's kind of like its own little showroom over there where customers can come in and see stuff.
Yeah, and that's a great segue into talking about your studio and your equipment, because Andy was kind enough to film a studio tour starting from the outside of his house, going through all the equipment. And I am going to post this there'll be a link in the video of this video description for the page for the podcast, and I'm going to post this video up so you can watch the full video by yourself on your own time. And trust me, it's a definite watch, because I have a 2-car garage here, which I think is pretty small, and this is nothing like what you have going on. I mean, yours it looks from the outside, for just a little overview for everyone. From the outside, it just looks like a standard, suburban neighborhood, 2 cars in the driveway. You kind of walk to the side door of the garage, and then you walk in and it's like a mini showroom with, the floors are done. There's display cases, all the products that you offer for sale and for engraving right there in front of your face. It looks like you're walking into an actual storefront.
Yeah.
And then from there, we go through the actual workspace, which is behind that. And I'm sitting here just trying to moving chairs around like an idiot, trying to get some more space because I have, I just ordered, I'm on the order for the new red line, Eon laser, and I don't know where I'm going to put that. I have this space in here right now. But yeah, it's a really, really awesome setup. So let's talk about the lasers that you have.
Yeah.
So the first one, I'll probably pop it up on the screen here. You'll see is you mentioned it, and that's your AP laser.
Yeah.
You have the, what is it? The AP, what is it?
4024.
4024. So I'm assuming a 40 inch by 24 inch bed. How many
little 100 watts?
100 watts. So I'm curious, how did you come across AP? Because it's a name that if you're in the laser world, you will see them come up, but it's not one of the most like visible names. You kind of have to dig a little bit to find or to be interested in buying an AP laser. So I'm interested to hear that.
So a couple things, and remember making this decision was not knowing anything about lasers. I was doing research. So some of those things that led me to AP may not do that now.
Right.
But one of the big ones is I place phone calls and emails to every laser manufacturer there was.
Mm-hmm.
And AP was by far the most responsive, gave me the best answers to everything. And then AP has the Facebook user group, and maybe the other ones do too, but I asked a couple questions in there, and I got a lot of good information trying to figure it out. The other thing that really drove me to AP was being able to remove the bottom section to roll something in underneath there. And that I thought was something pretty cool, and I've never used it once. I've never rolled the bottom out from underneath it. So you probably don't need that, but it is nice to know I have that option. I have taken the top part and done some wood floors before for a customer, but I've never rolled out the bottom to do the big items you can put underneath. But AP, in my opinion, comes at a premium price for the Chinese version lasers. And AP says, the AP laser in China and the AP laser in the U.S. is the same base, but when it gets to the U.S., they do quite a bit of modifications to it.
Yeah.
So I don't have any complaints with them. They've been great for asking questions for along the way and things. I've never had anything not work because of them. Things I thought didn't work because of them and realized I did something in the beginning, but they've been always very responsive.
Right. Yeah. That process is, sorry to interject there, basically the same thing I did when I was looking to buy my laser. I sent out basically whoever, when you're searching, comes up and who you hear just in the ether, just, I hear names. So I heard, Boss, Full Spectrum Laser I reached out to, Rabbit Laser. I don't even know if they're still around, but they make, another Chinese import. They fix them up in America. They add stuff. And you reach out to the salespeople, and it's really who gives you the best information, who gives you the best kind of vibe. Like, I feel taken care of, like, when something happens, because when you're going into this as a business, when things happen and they're down, you're losing money. So for me, like, when I talked to the boss, I was like, okay, like, I feel like they have my back. I like the idea, like their tech support sounded great. And there's, like you said, the Facebook group, very important. Always find the Facebook group for whatever laser manufacturer you buy from, because those guys will help you faster than anybody will, because everyone's come into a problem, probably the same problem you have. So, but yeah, I did the same thing. And that's how, even when people ask me for recommendations, I'm just like, look, make sure you talk to them. Talk to the sales guys, make sure like you feel good about the decision. Don't just go based off of what everybody's saying.
Yeah, and never place an order till you have a phone number that somebody's going to answer the phone to.
Yeah, especially at the price points like an AP laser, or when you're going mid level up. That's a significant chunk of change, and you don't want to be left in the dust, really.
So, I don't have any higher end units to compare it to. I mean, I watch all the same videos you guys watch, and we see everybody. And
Yeah.
I have taken some Adobe classes from Michael at Laser 911.
Oh.
And of course, the first time I get on the phone with him, I have to hear his story about how his first laser was an AP laser and how much he hated it and forced him to buy it back. And I was like, great. I was 2 months into owning this thing, and I got somebody telling me how bad it is. But, he likes the epilogues, and I'm sure they're great machines.
That's a price point.
Yeah.
That's a pretty premium price point. And
Yeah.
if you're going that route, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just not in my budget. But when I decided, I hate putting the rotary in the laser and dealing with that. And I was like, I'm done. I'm buying another laser just for a rotary. And again, I kind of started the research over, and, AP answered all the questions like they always do. And I just see Thunder was coming up a lot, and a lot of people were talking about how great it was. I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And so I bought this one over here, and it's just a 24.
Is that a man?
And no, I could have got the bolt. I would have had to wait an extra 2 months, and I wasn't going to do that.
All right.
And I really don't even know what the difference so much is, but I was able to get this one up to a 90 watt, where it comes factory as I think a 60 or something.
Oh.
So I was able to do a little bit with that. And then just looking at prices for replacement parts on the Thunder, I just couldn't believe how cheap they were compared to the AP laser. And that's what kind of sold me on the Thunder, is like, I wanted to give it a shot. Plus, you go look at the tube, and, a tube for this one is like $300.
Right.
And then I know if I got to replace the tube in my AP, it's significantly more.
And so for the AP, what kind of jobs do you run on that one? And then you mentioned that the Thunder, you just do tumblers. So what kind of stuff do you do on the AP?
So a lot of acrylic, I do a couple different jobs for other people, cutting out templates for things they use. I do it
in my business.
Yeah. I do a ton of hat patches. We've got a guy in town that does the DTF printing and on shirts and stuff. But I just connected with him early when I started, and he's like, "Can you do hat patches?" And it's like, "Sure." So, I've probably done thousands of hat patches, and unfortunately with him, it's usually smaller runs, but it works out. And we do that, and I was buying all my hat patches at JDS, and they're great hat patches, but then I found some on Amazon for a fraction of the price, and that works out really well. And then I do a lot of wood cutting. I've got a couple of woodworkers in town that come over and want me to make templates for them, or actually cut their wood, depending on how thick it is. And then I usually do a custom engraving on their projects when they're done also. So I do a lot of that, and then a lot of row mark, push and row mark, or row mark equivalent. I use some of the JDS stuff too. I don't remember what theirs is called. But I do a lot of placards for equipment, for manufacturers making different types of equipment. So I really push that a lot. I like to they call me and say, "We've got this piece of equipment. Or this many of these types of equipment we're going to build this month." And then each piece of equipment may have 30 to 60 different placards on it. So I do a whole kit, put it in a bag and ship it to them. And I really like doing those. That's nice to be able to do runs. And then they get to pick the colors that match their design and their trucks. And so I do a lot of little different stuff, and not a lot of the same. In hindsight, I probably would have more bought a Galvo CO2 for the tumblers.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Here's one. When people get into tumblers, they don't realize that the worst part about doing tumblers is the setup and the breakdown. And after the first time you do it in your CO2 laser, you're going to do exactly what you did. And you'll be like, I need to buy a laser specifically for this so I can set the rotary up and never have to move it. Because that's the worst part about doing tumblers. And yes, I was going to mention, CO2 Galvo, a lot of people go that route. And it's probably, if you do become real big into tumblers, that's something that probably next on the list.
Yeah. I've done a few on the fiber. It's just a little more picky. But when we first started doing a lot of tumblers, it was a lot of full wraps, and there you need the rotary and the gantry. But lately, a lot of the big orders I've got from corporate stuff has just been logo size, so I could have done that on a Galvo, and that is going to be the next laser I get. I've been looking at them and trying to figure out what to get. But the nice thing about this Thunder with the Rotoboss is the kit they got connects to the bottom tray in there. So you can't move the rotary at all unless you really try to. You're not going to bump it. It's not going to move. It that makes it nice. You set it once and you're done.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I set my focal length and don't even check another dimension before I run a tumbler in there anymore.
It's the way to do it.
Yeah.
And you also have a fiber laser there, right? What do you do with fiber?
So a lot of firearm stuff on the fiber, a lot of knives, mostly the Z-Mark, the black on stainless. I do a lot. I stock a lot of things next door that are stainless for. I get a lot of people walk in saying they think they know what they want. Anyway, for Father's Day coming up or whatever, they need something to hand out, and they'll come over, and 99% of the time they want it. I'm driving to wherever they're going right now. They think about this. They want to pick something up and walk out the door with. So we do a lot of knives, and we've got some other cutouts of stuff for women and different things, and then we can just put a personal message on it. I probably do, probably close to 50 of those kind of items a week, just by somebody I didn't even know was coming, just knocks on the door, comes in and says, I need to walk out of here with something for this occasion.
Wow.
And we just throw it up on the laser and do it real quick, and they're out of here in 10 minutes.
That's great.
So and then also on the fiber, I'm really getting into on the cerakote is, a lot of cerakote is great for the protection of whatever you're spraying it on, but you can use different colors to get, different effects, just like regular paint. But instead of doing stencils, I've got a large vinyl cutter over here that I used to use for stencils and still do. But now I'm getting into lasering one layer of cerakote off. And that is working really nice. I've done some things I've just been amazed with that if I would have done stencils, would have taken me hours and took 5 minutes on the laser.
Yeah.
So that's something I continually to work on. And I've started a YouTube channel. It doesn't have much on there right now, but a couple of those videos are on lasering cerakote off and seeing how that works out. And again, it's very precise settings that you got to struggle to figure out. But once you get them, for some reason, the different colors really seem to affect it. So I got to have different settings for different colors. And
it's not like lasering off the powder coat, which is funny that you're doing the So I had an idea for a product that I really wanted to do, and I was looking at, I wanted it to be coated. So Cerakote did come up, and I really wanted to start powder coating in here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just watching videos, and I'm just like, man, that looks really messy.
It is.
I don't know if I want to do that. I'm kind of putting it in my back pocket for now, this idea, because I would have to start powder coating myself. I did look. Basically, no U.S. company is going to do it in the amount that I want, which would probably be on the lower end. I've looked at Alibaba. I've talked to the manufacturers over there. They kind of do it here and there, but so I would really have to get my parts custom laser cut, which out of metal, which is fine. I could do that. That's easy enough. But I'd have to powder coat them here, and I just don't know if I want to do the full studio setup of the powder coating thing.
Yeah, it's messy, plus the equipment that goes with it.
The oven is what's getting me. I saw you have the oven, right? You have one.
Yeah, right here, straight back. That silver box is a big oven.
That I'd have to get something like that. I'm just like, oh my god, is that thing on 3-phase?
No, it's 220 single phase.
Okay,
it's I have my electrical box in my house maxed out. I can run everything at once, but not much more. It's but no, if you ever need anything Cerakote, just shoot it over, get it taken care of, especially if you got some test pieces you want to do or something. But powder coating has its place and Cerakoting has its. They're both great products. Again, they're both, the prep work is really what makes the final outcome. They both look great until you start to abuse them, and then it comes down to how good it was prepped.
Right.
But Yeah, and the principle's about the same. I think there's actually a little bit more for cerakote because anything that comes in has to be stripped down to its smallest component. It goes into a simple green bath for 24 hours, and then it comes out, and then it gets completely sandblasted, whether it's polymer or metal, gets sandblasted. Then it goes into the oven for, depending on what it is, but on average about 2 hours, and that will bring out any of the oil that may still be in there. You can see it real easily. And if you see that, then you either go back into the bath or there's some other techniques, but you got to get it where it runs through the oven cycle and there's no sign of oil at all. And then once that's past that, then you can actually spray the part. So it's very time consuming, and
Yeah.
a lot of times people come in here and want something cerakoted where powder coating is the obvious better choice for it. And I don't try to convince them. I just tell them you're talking to the wrong person.
All right.
And I've thought about doing powder coating, but I've went into a few places that do it and they are, and
Mess. Yeah.
you can usually find a powder coat local. I mean, you may pay out the nose to get a small quantity done, but
Yeah, that's the thing.
yeah.
So what were you doing before what was your career before getting into the laser?
So for about 29 years, I was in the airline industry on ground support. So I supplied the equipment that services the airplane before it takes off. We did a lot of de-icers and catering trucks and different things like that. I started off as working in the engineering department. When I left there, I was CTO. I was running engineering, parts, service. And there was just a change in upper management and ownership, and we left semi okay with each other. It just wasn't a fit any longer. And decided to start something new.
So what were the early days, maybe like the first week, month, couple months? How was that when you started out your business? How did you start getting your first couple customers? Take us through that part.
So it was stressful. There's no doubt about it. We did do some farmers markets. Did a couple of trade show, kind of high-end craft show, trade show things to get the name out. And a lot of it was knocking on doors and going around to local people talking. And that's usually by far the best. And it's something that I need to spend more time doing. I haven't even really went outside of my town. And we've got lots of other places around that I need to go talk to, because now that I've got a good buildup of pictures and things we've done, I think it'll make that process even easier to show people. And, just sitting on the computer, looking at the businesses and then targeting what they may want. I don't go in there, with just saying, "Hey, I'm a laser engraver. What can I do for you?"
That's exactly.
It's it's going. A lot of times I'll go drive by their place, and I mean, like we talked about earlier, I do try to push the road mark stuff. So I think anybody's making labels or anything, I'll go drive by, and if I can get pictures of whatever they're manufacturing, and I'll make their exact ones that they have. And a lot of times they're stickers on their trucks. And then being able to go in there with, plastic road mark type material that's color matching to their brand and with their logo on it. And then their data plates, everybody has, the VIN number and different things, but being able to customize those. I would say a lot of time I get that business because I can do where every truck has a different number on it, VIN number or whatever it may be, model number. That's what they really want. And they're fine with stickers for everything else. But once I show them I can do their data plate, then I can usually talk them into getting everything else, because it's not much more. Because most of these people are making, a dozen trucks a month at the high end. So they're paying a premium for stickers anyways. So I can go in there and offer this as a package deal. It comes to them in a box or a bag, and it's labeled for that truck. It's got everything they want on it. And if they've got a special type of adhesive they like to use, I can have that pre-put on there. So usually getting in the door with them is the main data plate, and then I can usually get the rest of it out of that. So right now, if I was going out tomorrow to go talk to businesses, that's where my focus would be on things like that.
Oh, cool. So you found something you really zeroed in on. Do you
Yeah.
ever, like you mentioned, you do a little test, do you bring a physical example to them? If
Oh yeah.
showing them? Yeah.
I tried to go get a picture of whatever they're using today. And then I come back and I make that identical, just better, out of that material. And then I leave with that in their hand. They can look at it and, because it's really hard to get to the right person when you're cold calling. So the more I can leave with their branding on it, that they leave on their desk, that, a couple coworkers walk by and see it, that drives questions. And I can't tell you how many times I've walked out there thinking they're not going to do this, to they call back saying, yeah, somebody in purchasing and said, yeah, I had this sitting on my desk. One of the managers or owner walked by and saw it and asked questions. And so I was calling you back. So it's because you can never get to the right person, or you don't even know who the right person is.
Yeah, and they're so used to people probably coming in. And this is another thing where if you're going the pounding the pavement route, which is the best, it is a great route if you're doing local, bring something, because it's the whole show versus tell thing. You might say, hey, I'm Andy, I do laser engraving. They're just like, okay, like some people don't even know what it means. You'd be like, I don't know what that means. Like, I'm working right now, I'm on the job, and you're telling me to imagine what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you have the physical thing, like, look, it's your logo right on something that you use or something that your store sells, that will impress people, and then they can visualize it, and then they'll be more receptive to what you're offering.
Yeah, I very seldomly will cold call without having something in hand. I mean, I do have some bags made up of just general stuff. And, if I keep one in the truck or something, if I run into somebody, I'll give them that. But I always try to make it their logo, their personal touch on that item. And usually once you're there, you can see other things. Then you can talk through it with them, what else you can do. And a lot of times, if I'm not much more money than what they're doing now, then we could talk about how to make it look even better. If you can kind of imagine, a lot of companies have, say, a data plate that's this big with a whole bunch of switches and controls in it. Well, they may have little stickers under each little switch. Well, we can make one whole plate that has all the holes cut into it. They just lay that on top of their metal plate they're using today, and it looks so much nicer than what they're doing today. Yeah, and so that works out really well. And I would say, on average, my laser has got some type of that material in it more than anything else.
More than
yeah, because you can get so many different colors and everything, and what I do find out, though, and I don't know how much you use of material, is, you have perfect settings for today, this sheet, or ever how many sheets you buy, and then you order more and the settings.
I have done some in the past, not a whole lot recently. Not enough to where I would have, like a consistent, this is performing differently than this.
Yeah. And then I'd say that by far my biggest complaint with the AP laser is you cannot control the air through Library.
Yeah.
And I called them, and I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure out how to do it, but I can't tell you how much row mark I've wasted because it'd be nice just to set it up, engrave it, and then go back and cut it, and it turns the air on. And I don't. So now I got to turn off the cut layer, and I'll engrave it, and then I switch layers, and then I send it over there. And especially if I'm in a hurry, then I just do it from my computer and send it over there and hit start, and I didn't turn the air. And then I look over, and now I got row mark smoking in my laser. So it's, even the Thunder you can do that with. Yeah, you can't on the AP, and I don't get it. I'd say that is my only complaint with the AP laser, is not being able to control the air. And I mean, if you're doing black or a dark color on the bottom for the row mark material, then running air isn't a big deal. But if you have a white underlay, I mean, you can have the smallest breath of air just to help keep your lens clean. But if you have any more than that, it just messes it up.
Yeah. So, looking at your website, I see a specific section for corporate gifts. And this is something that I feel like a lot of people who get into the engraving space kind of neglect. I worked in a business before I did laser. I worked in an e-commerce business for a small business, and we had a corporate gifting program for the products that we ordered. And that was probably the most important thing that that company offered. And it's something that it usually only comes around a couple times a year, mainly for Q4, for Christmas and stuff. But it's something that do you think it's worth having a specific section like on your website dedicated to this? Have you done some corporate stuff?
Yeah, so I would say if I was starting over today, that would be lower on my list.
Okay.
But with how easy JDS makes their catalogs available, I would probably do it anyways because it's very simple. I mean, I'm not the techie person on the social media and website. I hired a company to do it, and my updated website should be coming out this next week or so, where it is moving a little bit away from corporate gifts and doing a little bit more on some of the cerakote, because everybody just likes cerakote's firearms, and I don't want to push.
If that's the niche that's bringing you the work, then that's where you go. But yeah, so I mean, if someone's kind of getting into, hey, I want to do the keychains, I want to do the tumblers, I want to do the whatever, that kind of swag, more or less, corporate gifting, that kind of thing. Try to figure out who buys for holidays. The companies usually want 50, 100 of a certain thing for gifts, 50 tumblers, 100 tumblers for the company. It's a great way to get started. But then again, if you have something that's obviously paying you more and more interest, go that route. That's what I did. I mean, I don't do anything other than mostly acrylic.
Yeah. And that's what I still do it around, usually in September timeframe. I'll order a whole bunch of the dupes or whatever the cheapest tumblers out there right now. And I will go put company logos on it. Any company that has over about 100 employees within 30, 40 miles of me, I take a tumbler into them and say, hey, here's a tumbler. And if you guys ever want to give these away for Christmas gifts or anything to your employees, let me know.
What's your process for finding, not even just for corporate, but for companies that you want to reach out to? Do you just go on Google Maps and just think of certain types of businesses and just Google?
I do that. And when I'm just driving around, if I see a place, and especially if I see a place that has nice cars sitting out in their parking lot, and it's fixed up and looks nice, I know they're probably paying their employees well, for one, if they got nice cars out there. And if their place is the lawn's mowed and everything's looking nice out front, then they're willing to spend some money on, a good front to their business, and having something like this may be something interesting to them. And then
that is a great factor into your thought.
Yeah. So I'll write down all those places. I keep a little notebook in my pocket, and usually around the middle of the year or so, I'll start going back and looking at it, and then doing a little more research on those companies that I wrote down and seeing what they do. And then if I can find any angle to see that they may need any kind of laser work outside of corporate gifts, then I'll make that for them too. And the more nice cars in the parking lot and the bigger the company is, the more I give them. And it all just comes down to what looks right.
Yeah.
But, I love walking into places and seeing they got signs that it's not always a row mark. There's some other, and I don't even know what the process is, but we got a new Culver's restaurant right next to us opened up, and they've got some really neat QR codes on some little displays, and if they're not laser engraved, I don't know what they are. And so I made some up laser engraved, and I know they're not going to buy any, but any chance I get something like that, I'll put it in front of them and take advantage of whatever's there. If I go into a restaurant, or I'll take especially for how quick it is on the Thunder to do a quick glass, if I know I'm going out to eat somewhere nice, I'll get their logo and put it on a glass and carry it in there with me. And sometimes I don't even talk to anybody. I just leave it on the table.
Just table with a card.
With a card, yep. Yeah, with a card in it. So it's always hustling, trying to figure out whatever the next thing is. because the thought, if you're new getting into this thinking you're going to get flooded, you're not. And if you do get flooded, you're going to get the people that want the cheapest Stanley dupe full wrap that's going to take, if you have a lower end laser, it's going to take an hour to engrave, if not longer.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get 50, $60 for a laser work on a wrap tumbler.
No, the problem with tumblers is there's a set price that no one's going to pay higher than, because there's just so many available. If you can't hit the $20-some range in that 20 to 30, it maybe you could get more. I don't know, but that's just the ceiling for those. Everyone knows that's what they cost, and so you have to have the right machine that can knock that out quick. Otherwise, you're never going to make your money back.
And then the time it takes to do the file to get it ready for a full wrap is just ridiculous. And and I'm straight up with people. If somebody wants a full wrap, I'll say go on Etsy and figure out which wrap you want. If it fits the right size, then I'll buy it. I'll pass that price along to you, and I'll engrave it. And then it's that $30 range. Now, if you go back and you want that file customized with your kids' names and everything in it, it starts to really go up from there.
Yeah.
And I have sold $150 tumblers, and I mean, the person was dead set on it. And it just doesn't make sense to me to do otherwise.
What's a $150 tumbler have on it?
It's an Etsy file with a whole bunch of custom added file work to it. And, I'm sure this audience is getting into lasers, so they watch the Laser Everything channel too. And that Michael turned me on to that Joy's Designs. And I almost use them for everything now. I very seldomly will do the work myself. Is you can have the worst picture and the worst thought in your mind. If you can somehow get that into an email and send to them, then 30 minutes, they have it back to you.
I outsource as much as I possibly can, especially that type of, if you send a logo to me, I have, just dozens of people on Facebook who do the vectorization way better than I can. And they do it in like 20 minutes. I don't even know how they do it. It's better than a regular software trace. And it costs $20, 15, 10, 15, $20. You add it to the price, outsource as much as you possibly can.
Yep.
Because you have to, you got to keep the train moving, and you can't get bogged down with things that you aren't particularly good at.
Because the worst thing is sitting in front of this computer is making me no money at all ever.
Yes. So what is what would you say a typical day looks like for you?
So usually I do 3 to 5 cerakote jobs a week, and that usually always takes priority. That is the most profit. Yeah. But it's very time consuming, and especially when you're doing different colors, you got to wait on the oven and wait for a flash. So it's usually come out here in the morning and get whatever prep work I can do for cerakote, get it to the point where it's painted, and then it's just playing the waiting game in the oven. And then when it's in the oven, that's when I do the laser work. Like today, I had a guy come in. He left a whole bunch of knives, custom made knives that he wants his logo put on, and some different names put on there. So probably tomorrow, or worst case Monday, it's going to be come out and get set up for the cerakote, get that started, and starting throwing knives up on the fiber and engraving those. I just finished an order for about 400 tumblers. Those take a long time. I do make a deal with my kids that they don't realize how lucky they have it, but I give them 50% of whatever the profit is if they run the tumblers. So I have one daughter that loves to come up. She is 11.
Okay.
And she
can operate a Thunder laser at 11.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's already all set up. Sales you got to do is put it in there, and she loves to run tumblers all day long, and she can make a lot of money doing it. I did learn out, we did go through a whole case of JDS tumblers with handles, and completely had to throw them all away though, because she wasn't putting them in the same way every time. And so the logos were all offset and all over. So I went to just went to Home Depot and bought one of the laser levels, and with a magnet on it, I just stick it in there, and we show her exactly where that dot's got to be every single time, and now she gets it. So that works out really good. But we'll do that, and then if I can get the medical stuff in, usually it's 20 to 30 at a time, so I can knock them out by an hour or two. But I get a lot of, well, to me, it's a lot of customers. I'll get 20 customers a week, and those always take up a lot of time. And
kind of the walk-in stuff.
Yeah. And that's always something, especially if I'm in the middle of painting or I got lasers running, and it's just, you got to deal with it. But I am a one-man show 90% of the time, and that takes up a lot of time. But I try to be as nice as I can, and just try to determine if it sounds like whatever they're here for is going to turn into business, then I'll give them a lot of time. If they're here just to talk, then I'll have to move along. But
yeah, that's something you definitely learn as the one man. I've only been a one man show. I've considered hiring in the past, back when I had my other workshop in Philly.
Yep.
But you're so conscious of your time when you're the one, because you come into work, the next minute you look down, it's like 5 o'clock. You're like, where did the day go? And one task can just take you in the wrong direction, and you're clawing all that back. You're just like, I just wasted an entire day or half a day, whatever amount of time, especially if it's something where you're not sure if it's going to pay off, but then you're trying to be nice. And it's a really, it's a tough act to balance sometimes.
Yeah, it's very tough. And, firearm sales, when people watch the video, they'll see the firearms I have.
Yeah.
There's no money to be made in selling firearms. The markup is extremely low.
Oh,
and if it wasn't for having to have my FFL license to legally be able to sell firearms, to do cerakote, I am a firearm enthusiast, but I was never planning on turning it into a business. The cerakote forced my hand into doing it, but the person that comes in that wants to talk about buying a gun, a $500 gun is probably only going to put $15 to $20 in my pocket. So there is no profit in selling guns. So, and I'm as nice as I can, but I tell them, I was like, take a picture, I'll answer any questions, or let's talk, and here's the price. But I can't just stand there and talk all day about it.
You got to implement a policy where it's very clear that if you're buying the gun, it comes with a engraved, part slide, something. I'm not super well up to date on guns, but I know people do all types of engravings on the sides and all that stuff. So it's like, hey, you can buy the gun, but you got to have this extra. It's required. Otherwise, you should buy this somewhere else, because $15 to $20.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yeah. I have seriously thought about not selling any new guns without customization on them.
That'd be the maybe I would do.
Yeah. It may get to that point, but see, we do a lot of, I know you're not a firearms person, but the transfers of firearms is what I do a lot of those also. Okay. So if you go on to anywhere online that sells firearms, if you buy that, you have to have that firearm sent to a local FFL to you.
So like a missile kind of?
Yeah. So like Palmetto State Armory is a big name, and I'm listed with all them. So if you go online and during the checkout process, you have to pick who you want them to send that firearm to. So I get picked a lot for that. And I have guns show up almost every day of the week that I didn't even know were coming. Somebody bought it online, had it shipped to me. And then there's a lot of paperwork to have that license and do that. So that takes up time, but I do charge for that transfer. So it's time is all they're paying for, is labor. It doesn't physically cost me anything other than labor, but I do a lot of transfers for people. And, that's how I do the background check and all that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So, and then, good.
No, guys, because this is something I kind of always wondered. I'm in a lot of the fiber laser groups, and a lot of the guys do, they engrave. People will disassemble the guns, send the parts out to people. They get the crazy engravings, the scrolls,
Yep.
all over the handles and stuff. You have to have an FFL to do that, right? To handle
So
those parts.
the way the law is, if a customer walked into your shop today, if they stayed there with you, if you could get it done today and they were physically in the room with you, you can do it. If they leave that firearm with you overnight, now you have to be an FF.
Okay. So all the mail order guys definitely have to have that to do a legal.
But a slide is not a firearm because it doesn't have a serial number on it. So you could do a slide, like say you had your typical handgun. Most handguns are going to be serialized on the frame. So any part of that gun other than the frame, you could have and you can sit on as long as you want. But if it has a serial number on it, now you have the firearm. So once you have the firearm, then it has to go into your A&D books and be tracked and logged, and this starts that whole.
So yeah, I see a lot of that because a lot of the guys in those forums, they ask like, how do I get started doing this as a business? And then someone always pops in who does it saying, hey, you got to make sure certain parts and who's holding what, and then you better have, FFL, you better be on the books for this because if they come and get you, that type of situation.
Yeah, and it, I don't know if you follow it, but there's more FFLs being shut down yearly than there are starting new ones, just with the current environment we're in. And the paperwork and the form, it's called a 4473. That's the form to buy a firearm. It is, there can't be any mistakes, period. And it comes down, a mistake is not crossing a T or not dotting an O. That is a mistake. So I have switched over to an online system where it helps with that considerably. But you still have, it's 7 pages long. There's only 2 pages a person fills out, but all the instructions are part of this pack. It's 7-page pack, and that pack has to stay together. And then you have to print it out because when somebody buys a firearm or does a transfer, there's only 3 options. It's approved, it's delayed, or it's denied. If it's denied, you're done. The firearm does not change ownership. If it's delayed, then the FBI has 3 days to say whether it's a yes or a no, proceed or deny. If they don't do anything in the 3 days, it defaults to approved, they never let it go that long. And I would say 90+%, the second I hit the submit button, I'm getting an answer back, either usually proceed, but sometimes denied. And then in the state of Kansas, where I'm at, you're legally to buy it today and walk out with it. There are states that have the mandatory wait, but so it just all depends. But you have to keep all that paperwork, and it is quite the chore to make sure you're up to date. Because I have recently started carrying night vision and thermals, also optics, and I get a lot of people asking to do suppressors, especially with how short the wait time is on them right now. And the only reason I'm not doing it is because of the amount of paperwork it takes it's just such labor intensive on paperwork, and the penalty for not doing it right is so great. They can shut you down instantly. So, but as far as, people getting into this though, my biggest thing I struggled with, I think, in this whole thing was inventory and tracking my sales and doing proper sales tax quarterly filings. It was real easy in the beginning for me to kind of push that aside. I'll catch up with that later. And it didn't bite me in the butt, but it was coming.
I'm doing this for 9 years. If I go log into the New Jersey portal right now, I am delinquent for so many sales tax quarters. I don't even know how every time I get a notice from the New Jersey Division of Taxation, I'm just like, oh God, they're shutting me down now because it's not your money, guys. I'm going to pay you. It's just thinking about doing it.
It was so bad for me. They started sending me saying, this is what we think you're going to owe us, so just pay this down and then figure it out later. But I finally, in the last month, I sat down and I got barcodes on every single thing I have for sale now. Being in the firearm industry, getting a credit card processing company was a major pain. So I've got that working now with the barcodes on everything. Yeah. Now every single transaction has an invoice I scan it, and I can easily go at the end of the day, at the end of the quarter, and see quickly how much I owe in sales tax and pay that and move forward.
Yeah.
But don't wait on that, because man, when you decide to do it, it takes so long.
Yeah. And once you're you don't want to be on their radar. Let's just
No.
say that, because then you're in the system and then they keep following you up.
Yeah.
So I guess closing out, what's something that, you've been doing this as your business for a little over a year now. Is there something that if you go back, I know we kind of touched on some things, but like if you were to go back in the beginning, think of like your mindset then and what it is now, like something you're just like, man, I was really wrong on that, or that's just not how that worked. Well, what's something you would think you would?
Unfortunately, there's a lot of those, but
So
I would say setting up accounts that have minimum buys to get set up with somebody to have their product available, whether it's small aluminum business cards up to, some of the high dollar items I carry, is usually you can get it for the same price or even cheaper on Amazon sometimes. So don't assume that you got to go put a $10,000 minimum order on something to get product in to have available, because it's not worth sitting on it. I have, unfortunately, a lot of stuff that I will move. I'm not worried about that, but it's money sitting here that's not doing anything for me.
Yeah. It wraps up cash flow when you.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that is setting up, whether it's an LLC or whatever, does open the doors a lot for you once you have your federal employee ID number, tax ID number. And now every time I need to go get something new, I will go to the manufacturer, see what it's going to take to be able to buy, what's the minimum order and what's it going to take, and then go find it somewhere else that doesn't need all that and determine what's the best way for me to do this. For sales tax purposes, I try to buy everything with sales tax. So then I don't have to deal with paying the sales tax on it when I sell it.
Yeah. It's very, sometimes it's not worth it at all. Like I have exemption and I rarely use it just because I don't have to deal with it.
Right. But then like all the firearms I buy and JDS and all those, they will not sell it to you unless you are, you do have the license, and then you don't pay tax on it. So having to watch all that and play with that, and that's what the software really lets you do, is set that up so if you got to pay sales tax on that or not at the end of each quarter. But
so get your numbers, even if you're just tracking them with some kind of software, QuickBooks, whatever. Get going earlier than you think you should.
Yeah, I mean and QuickBooks is, I've probably signed up and canceled QuickBooks 4 times in the last year because I just don't feel it's worth the monthly cost.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden something will come up where it'd make really nice if I did have it. I actually am paying for it right now. I am considering canceling it right now too. But my new credit card processing software does a lot of that for me.
Right.
So it's tough, and it is really easy to start your day with these great intentions of what you're going to get done. And at the end of the day, all you did was paperwork and you got nothing accomplished and you made no money.
Yeah.
And that's hard. So if you can figure out processes to get things done, and even though they make so much sense right now, write them down. So next time you got to do it at the end of next month, you're not having to think about it. It's just look at your notes and do it all over again. Because I struggle with that too. I'll get it to the point it's so simple, and then I forgot how to do it the next time we need to do it. And then, so it's But as far as other things I would have done different is I definitely wouldn't have stocked as many firearms as I have now. That it's definitely been. I move a lot. Somebody will come in and want something, and I'll order that for them. But it's like a lot of things. When you go buy a car, you want certain options. And if what I have on the shelf doesn't have those options, it just sits there. But it's also turned around and bit me because I do a lot of little house shape key rings for housing developments. and they're always next day delivery on Amazon. And I got an order. They ordered 1,500 of them 2 days ago, and now they're saying next month before I can get them. And this customer, I got to tell them Monday, and this customer is going to be upset for one, because I know they're out right now. And so I found them on eBay and paying almost 3 times. I'm going to lose on them, but just to get them in here to get them some in their hand.
Yeah, that's something that I've done. This is different because, that's something that's out of your control, the shipping.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you just got to bite it because you will hope to make it up later on down the line with more. I've misquoted jobs. To this day, I misquote them all the time, sometimes by a significant amount of money, especially if I get the shipping wrong, because I do mostly all e-commerce. So I quoted one guy, I thought he was in the United States and he was in Europe. And I didn't want to go back and add more to the cost. And I just ate like an extremely high shipping cost. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to get this back next time. But, you just got to eat it. That's just part of it.
I will never go back and tell a customer it's going to cost more. And if I am in one of those scenarios, if it's that really weird circumstance up front, I'll tell them, I'll give them a ballpark and say, this is what I believe it's going to be, could go up to this. And if it goes over that, then I eat it. And if I screw up, especially stuff I have in stock, if I screw it up, I'll do it. And I've had people bring me some old colors of tumblers back in the early days. I wouldn't do it now, but they'll bring one in and want it engraved. And usually if it doesn't look brand new, I won't touch it regardless. But these look, and I messed it up. And it was me. I forgot to rotate it in Lightburn. And so I did it across the wrong 90 degrees off, which I've done a few times. But I went on eBay and bought another tumbler, that color, and I think I paid 10 times over what it was new. But I'll never go back and charge somebody for it. That's not their fault. But if somebody does bring me a tumbler, I do have an added cost, and I tell them out up front. I said, I don't have any control over if it goes bad or, the paint's, so I try not to.
It's another material, how it's hard it's hard to just knock that out and just know you don't get to mess around and play with it, play with your settings, that stuff.
Yeah, if you don't have any samples to do, and the settings change for that stuff, and I don't know if it's my laser changing or the powder coat changing, but it changes.
Yeah.
And so I am now to the point, though, I will turn a lot of that business away, for one, if it's not something I really want to do, or I will tell them, I'll do it. The odds of it going bad are very slim, but if it does, it's not on me. And make sure you get that in writing. And I just made up some simple sheets, whether it's laser or cerakote, and it has all the details on there. And if it's anything over $100, I automatically make them sign that quote. And then I'll give them a copy of it. But if it's one of those scenarios where they're bringing in something that I'm nervous about, I'll write it on there and put it on there, and then they walk out of here with a copy of it also. And I've never had to do that, and that's never went bad, but I'm just afraid it would. But I've had the lasers all of a sudden reset during the middle of a job.
Anything.
Does that
power could
go
out?
Yeah. And you just pretty much wasted that piece of material, whatever's in there at that time. So, but yeah, there's been a lot of painful learning. I feel like I'm paying my own college education to pay the price of learning this.
Yeah.
But, golf courses have been really good to me. Housing developments have been really good to me. Those are the kind of places I really try to talk to. And I would say out of all my online catalogs, golf courses hit me more up than anybody on there.
Interesting. Local, like in the area, and or just
I've shipped a few, but mostly local. I don't do a lot of shipping. I'm not even set up with like Ship Now or any of those.
Don't if you don't want to.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother pain in the butt.
I'm sure I pay a little bit more when I go to the post office, but I'd say 4 packages a month I ship, and it's not very much.
Yeah.
I would love to have more e-commerce stuff, and I haven't been able to crack the Etsy thing. I have a handful of things out there I've sold a handful of times. Overall, to me, Etsy is more of a pain than it is anything right now. But
Yeah, it's its own beast. I started on Etsy. Quick, I went into my own website pretty much at the same time, but it's definitely like it's its own thing. And my whole thing for anyone listening with Etsy is I personally would not try to sell anything on Etsy unless it is somewhat unique, or kind of like a bundle or something that isn't already flooded. Like if you were to say, I want to sell coasters or something, like, okay, there's 10,000 people selling coasters. What is the likelihood you're going to be the one chosen? But if you sell something that's slightly more unique, slightly more niche, and formulated in a way where it's like, okay, well, I could see someone spending the time going to that listing. That's more what I try to tell people. Otherwise, I would just go locally. Like if you want to do the tumblers and you want to do like what you're doing, golf course, like that type of thing, those people are always going to find you through web. They're always going to reach out directly. They're never going to order through Etsy. So you got to kind of weigh what you're doing.
I say I have spent significantly more money buying files on Etsy than I've made selling stuff on Etsy, by far.
And it's great for buying files.
Yeah,
on there all the time.
Yeah, they're cheap, and they usually work. I'm good enough now where I can edit it a little bit if I need to. But selling stuff on Etsy, just if you're the person that loves the photography and that side of it, and setting up those, I mean, because you've got to have a perfect looking picture and everything else, and it's just not worth it for me to spend an hour taking pictures of something.
No,
but
no, especially with you kind of have the niche you're working in, the kind of work that you're doing. You can double, triple, whatever what you're already doing without having to like gamble and spend a lot of your time on Etsy messing around. It's just not worth it. Those are the things you have to weigh, and it's in that situation I wouldn't do it either.
I mean, as far as advertising, I mean, I do some Google advertising, and then every once in a while I'll do something on Facebook, but I do some radio ads.
Oh, wow.
And radio hasn't been as good as I thought it was going to be. I get a lot of calls from it, but it doesn't turn into a lot of business. But it's on the cheaper end because you can spend as much as you want on advertising. I truly believe for anybody that's looking to get in this and wants to advertise is, focus most of your money on that 15 to 20 mile radius from your place. And then if you have any more money to spend, open it up to a 60-mile radius. And if you want to go outside of that, then work social media angles, and hopefully you're good at it. Because if you're not going to be seen. But
yeah. And for anyone who's interested in what kind of Google, definitely, because you can target anywhere where you're allowed to target very specifically the ranges that you want to advertise in. So Google, the number, that's a good one. Facebook ads, you can get very granular with who you want to target, especially if you integrate their pixel, the Facebook pixel onto your website. So anybody who visits your website, they'll kind of get retargeted. It'll start to it'll build an audience for you of people who look like the customer who just touched your website. So it kind of just builds on its own little audience, and they're relatively cheap, Facebook ads. So those are definitely areas where if people are looking local, those are the two I would definitely start with. Anywhere where you can where you can kind of see there's what's happening. A lot of the other thing they won't tell you. It's like, yeah, we put your ad out and it got 10,000 impressions, but it's like, okay, well, I don't see that. I want to have the data.
Yeah, and it's hard. And I don't know about you, but I feel anytime I do Facebook, any of the social advertising, is the hits I get are robots doing it. I mean, you go click on somebody that just followed you, and they have one follower, and they don't exist. And I think I mean, because it took me 6 months to get from when I started the Facebook page to get up to about 100 followers. And I thought that was going to be something a little more simpler to do. And again, if you're better at it, then you're fine. But to me, what's really worked the best is every month I run a $50 gift card giveaway. And, you got to invite 3 friends and like the page. And I know I will never make a dime off any of those people ever, but it gets my numbers. And the impressions are important and the followers are important, just the number. And if I know, I mean, I'm only sitting at like 500 or something now, but I would say 3/4 of those are people that will never in the chance ever buy anything from me, but it helps the numbers. It's part of that machine of social media to make it work.
Yeah. If someone is considering picking something up from you and they see, hey, I want to see if this is a real guy. What, he has a laser shop in his house? I don't believe that. Well, they can look and, okay, well, he has followers, he has interactions, he's posting stuff. Well, he's a real person. So,
and my phone number's out there. I mean, I don't try to hide it, and it's there. But the good thing also about it, and I wouldn't tell any people around here, but on that giveaway I do every month, it's well over 50% of the time because I go through, if they met their criteria, I put them into a random generator, pick a name and post it. And 50% of the time they never get back to me because I don't think they're real people in the first place.
oh my God.
And so I'm getting all these followers essentially for free because I don't even have to give them. I think I've been doing this for a couple months, and I think I've only given 2 out, and probably done it for 5 months. So three of the months I've never even had to give the gift card out.
Bad ratio at all.
Yeah. So, and it's not that I don't want to. I'd gladly give it if the people I pick let me know, but they never get in contact with me. So it's just, that's the way it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been awesome hearing from you and learning about your story. If anybody wanted to follow you, where would they? Were you YouTube? Is that the best, or where? What do you?
So Facebook I do the most on as far as post, and it's AAC Enterprise. Just search it; it'll be first one that comes up. Instagram the same. YouTube I think's AAC Enterprise, maybe KC at the end of it. I don't recall. That is where I'm putting most of my available focus right now. And if you go out there and watch my videos, they're nothing to the level of your guys's or anybody else. Mine are extremely weak. But I'm trying to get it going. I'm doing a little bit more. I kind of like what you do a little bit. Some of it's informational, and that's, I have to pick a direction right now. I'm kind of all over the place, but I try to be informational for the laser users on how to do things. But I do that with the thermals, the night vision, the cerakote. I do that with everything. And then I, not really hired, but I've got a person now that's actually doing a lot of the editing for me. So I have a video that just dropped at 7:00 tonight. And I haven't even watched it yet. He finished it today and it's posting. And so we're trying to see how that goes. We're staying, roughly around that 5-minute mark, pretty short ones, and just seeing what works.
Cool. Yeah, and I can always give you some tips on. I've been in the YouTube game I'm going to link all of his socials that he's mentioned in the video description below, so you don't have to go around searching. But yeah, I've been doing the YouTube for a very long time. So this is my second channel. So kind of understand how the arena works, and I can definitely give you some tips.
I don't want
to. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, but for some reason, social media and that kind of thing just works out for me, I guess.
I was born 20 years too late to be in that realm of knowing that stuff too well.
Yeah, I got just in the nick of time of a very, very, very early millennial, late Gen X. So just in the nick of time.
I mean, it's fun to do and to do the videos, but I was to the point where I wanted to put something out there, but I didn't want to spend the time editing it. And then I put out very subpar product. And I was okay with that because it was something and some people were watching it. And I do get a lot of, I don't get chats on or comments on Face or on YouTube very much, but I do get people reach out and said, I saw you do this on YouTube. Can you explain it a little bit more? But I'm hoping that changes a little bit with the new person that's helping do some of the editing. But like I said, I enjoy shooting it. I don't like doing anything with it after that. I don't want to edit it. I don't want to deal with it.
That's how I feel. I'm going to find an editor myself. I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Too much time.
Yeah, unless you're great at it.
Or super fast. Yeah. All right, Andy. It was great chatting with you. I appreciate you being a guest on the show. And everybody, go follow Andy on all of his socials. Subscribe to him on YouTube. Watch his videos. We're going to get him up. We're going to get those numbers up.
I would sure appreciate it. Thank you.